XRP's price action has fallen by over 4% in the last few hours. In today's video, I'm going to be addressing the latest developments within the XRP price action, sharing my thoughts and opinions on the small, medium, and longer timeframes. As I get into today's video, smash that like button if you're new, subscribe, and let's jump right down into the charts for XRP. Okay, we're going to kick things off right here on the 1 hour time frame. As you can see, we had this surge to the upside, very much in line with kind of your expectations on this one, kind of pushing up to that 63-cent level. From here, we have seen a bit of a collapse to the downside. Now, this particular move has one big institutional candle. This is kind of what they would call it within smart money concepts, which leaves a fair value gap behind. We will be looking to fill that. I just think that there's actually some potential here for a little bit more slippage, although it is within its pocket of support at the moment. Okay, so we're going to keep an eye on that. Now let's go ahead and measure this because it is quite an interesting structure. If we pull this down, we can see that we have almost come down to the 1.618 but failed to do so. We actually did cross the 1.382, making this more of a W, X, Y, X, and Z pattern rather than anything else. Now we will have to potentially take a look at that on a smaller time frame, or actually, you know what, we will jump down into a 15-minute time frame just to review everything that is going on here, because to me that could potentially right here be the structure that I was not seeing on the 1 hour. And yeah, that's it. So here you can see that we are in a 5-wave move to the downside like this. This is yet to finish out. That targeted range on this time frame will give us a approximate target down here between 59.93 and 60.28. I'll draw that on, remove the fibs, and then that's going to basically mark our way through, because here you have 1, 2, that's 3, 4, and then 5. Okay, let's roll this back up into our hourly. So we know that inside here, there's actually a fair amount of volatility. Our wave 3 is not yet complete and is currently looking like this with our targeted range down here. And that's going to basically be marking our wave 3. So we have the wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, bounce from then 4. Okay, so that's the structure that we're currently tracking. So where do the bulls want to see the price go in order to prevent further slippage to the downside? Well, the price has to rally up higher than 61.84 cents. Okay, so that's going to be that. The bears are going to be looking to try to finish off this structure, as I said, 59.93 to 60.28 approximately. So that's what they're going to be looking for the wave 3. Okay, and of course we'll be looking for support on that 1 hour 200 EMA to kind of complete out that structure. This is a reversal pattern, meaning that we have potentially now finished off our X wave high, and we'll talk about that next kind of move to the downside in a moment. So for XRP, that's currently where it sits. If we take a look at our stochastics, we are showing momentum to the upside on the 4 and 1 hour time frames. So it's possible that the bulls do break out of this pattern, and if that is the case, then this is just going to be a 3-wave correction before we rally up again. Keep a close eye on this one and see if the market is going to adhere to that or not. It would be great to see a breakout above 64.24. We'll talk about that on a daily time frame in a moment. But for now, you know, we kind of are seeing the 50 SMA, the yellow line, the 50 EMA, blue line, as our resistances. Throw on smart money concepts. This is right in line with some buying pressure here, and also finding resistance on that equilibrium. So if the buyers can't basically turn this area into a buy area, then we are going to find problems. The targeted range, as you can kind of see, is in this previous area of consolidation. So we want to be mindful over what that might potentially mean for XRP's price action, as in this could be a great area for support and then a bounce. But for now, I think, yeah, we take a look at that. It's all kind of to play for. Ultimately, we'll have to see whether or not the bulls will rally or whether or not the bears are going to continue to drag this price to the downside on the smaller time frame. So our stochastics are in favorable positions. Turn that off, bring on the relative strength index. It's not so good. Still shows us with plenty of momentum to the downside. And our volume profiles are actually showing us with spikes in selling pressure. As we take a look at this, we can see that there's significantly higher selling pressure than there is buying pressure. So again, this is showing us that there is an appetite for selling into this move to the downside. Not as much as we saw on the 1300 UTC hour candle on the Saturday the 24th. But nonetheless, it is still an increased volume versus all the little bounces that we see in here. So volume profiles not supporting the idea of Bitcoin's price getting a recovery just yet. So we'll keep an eye on it. It does look to me like we still have to finish this off. And then I think once we kind of come into that range, we could potentially go long or look for a break out or breakdown from the 200 EMA. So, we can of course look at that 200 EMA as our kind of support levels, stop loss lower than that, and a rally up to previous resistance. Support levels could be a great trade to be thinking about as well. But of course, we'll see how that kind of plays out in very due course. Let's roll this up into a daily time frame and let's take a look at the bigger picture, right? Because the bigger picture can be a little bit daunting for many, right? But we are still looking for a move down towards that kind of 51, 52 cents. The only way to prevent that, of course, is to break up higher than the previous swing high, which I'm going to put in up there at the 64.24, which is that white line at the top. We're going to look for a breakout of that. That's going to basically prevent us coming down to this lower trend line towards the kind of 51, 52 cent levels that we've been talking about for the last little while. Okay, so that's obviously what we're looking for. We're looking to see whether or not those bulls are going to be able to break out here. Obviously, we broke our trend line and we could argue that there's a trading opportunity here. I don't think this is the one to go for, but it's something to kind of keep an eye on, I guess, as an option, which would be to go long here, stop loss lower than the previous swing low, and we target out, somewhere up in that 66 cent range. Gives you a great risk reward ratio, but I don't think that's the right trade to be going for myself. I think you need to have a much better, cleaner breakout. At the moment, there's a few wicks in here that I'm just indicating to me that there's more sell pressure than there is buy pressure. So going long right now just seems like a little bit too much of a risk. I would be looking to see what happens over the next few days and then trading accordingly, because I do still see this need on a macro time frame for a shift to the downside. The weekly and daily are overbought, and you can see here the yellow line is the stochastic RSI. It's about to cross the white line, which is what they call the smoothing of K. It's basically a glorified moving average of the stochastic RSI. And when we see the yellow line cross lower than the white line, it's basically an indication of momentum shifting. You can see it right here. Let's actually go bring that back up. You can see that momentum shifting right in here as we started to see this big move to the downside. Relief rally, of course, and then bam, we drop down again. Okay, so when we see these kind of crisscrosses, we can see that there's a cross down here, bullish momentum, and we got the reversal in the market. Right now, we have the bearish momentum. So we want to be aware that things are not in the best position on XRP's stochastic RSI. The relative strength index, although we had some bearish divergences, is actually in an okay position. I'm not too concerned about this. We could see a small drop here and then another run, not a problem. So the relative strength index is still actually okay. Volume profiles are of course decreasing as we've pushed up, so it shows weakness. Here you can see that kind of on a much bigger scale, but you can also see it on a smaller scale down here as well, as we've most recently had this push to the upside over the last week. Okay, so for XRP's price action, unfortunately, it's to me looking like, although possible for us to continue running to the upside, we should be mindful that actually that breakout towards 75 to 85 cents, although something that I do think is likely to happen and occur, we are more than likely going to see a volatile journey before that kind of takes off. As much as I want to see a clean break above 64.24 cents and start our journey towards 75, I just don't think the timing is right at the moment. But I would love to be wrong, and I would love to see this breakout much earlier than anticipating. But I often say I cannot predict time. Time in the market is not something that I can do. All I can do is share my thoughts and opinions in the charts as I personally see it. And for me, looking at XRP's price action, it looks to me like there is still some volatility to be expected to the downside, even though we are heading towards that bigger breakout on the daily time frame. Roll this up into a weekly time frame, of course, we are still wedged right between those two key areas, right? We have the low side, which is our support range at between 33.46 and 46.16, and then we have our resistance range coming in at 66.13 to 75 cents. Okay, so nothing much has really changed there. We are basically just bouncing between these two levels, and at the point of recording and over the last week, we're just tapping into that higher range. Okay, so where historically this has been the case, we've come down to the lower range. So expectations need to kind of be aligned to the idea that maybe things aren't quite where they need to be just yet. Of course, we'll look for a clean break, and we are still targeting new all-time highs in 2025. 559 to 1125 still remains true. That hasn't changed at all. So basically everything else that's going on right now is just a part and part of the journey that is XRP. Now you guys can let me know what your thoughts are on all of this in the comments down below. What is your long-term XRP price target? Let me know down below, or join us on our free Discord server. And if you haven't done so yet, check out my second channel where I go through the Cardano technical analysis every single day.